Welcome podcast.
I
I'm also thrilled to talk about most and your life.
I'm most excited about right now is the ability to engage with positive emotions and how my actually creates a joy in my specifically how we can increase levels of happiness, can increase joy to our it's research and that it's small steps I do every day lift me and brings joy and gratitude.
Marvelous. So let's go into your research. So this is and your practice, because I think this is a very important subject. How to extend happiness, to be happy, to choose happiness intentionally, and all these topics that you were speaking of. I think that's really, really important for anyone for everyone who's listening, and for all us human beings.
Oh, for sure. Well, let's kind of start at the beginning, before psychology even got interested in positive emotions like joy. We were really focused on negative emotions because negative emotions cause a lot of physical and negative mental outcomes. So our focus was a lot on negative emotions. But the English language, if you look at our language, we have 75% more words for negative emotions than we do for positive emotions. So obviously we as a people generally, lean toward the negative. So we were just skewed that way. But in 2000, there was this big surge toward positive emotions and specifically toward the benefits of positive emotions. And there was a researcher, Dr. Barbara Fredrickson, who came out with a ton of research that showed that positive emotions actually have a ton of benefits for physical health and mental well-being, and that we need to be focusing more on experiencing more joy in our life on the day-to-day. So her research really, leads the path on this. One of the analogies I often like to explain to people is when you're walking along a path and you're just enjoying the sunshine and the flowers, you see a tiger. All of a sudden your attention narrows and all you see is the path. But when you were walking before and feeling maybe contentment, which is a positive emotion, you were able to see everything. So when we're living in joy and positive emotions, we have awareness all around us. But when we're living in negative emotions, we're only seeing the path in front of us. So her research shows how all of the positive emotions can benefit us. And then subsequent research shows us how we can actually go and be intentional and get more positive emotions in your life. So if you're interested, we can dive into some of those intentional ways. I'd love to share those. Or if you have any questions about what I've shared so far, happy to answer that as well.
Certainly we need to dive into that. And I also wanted to share that A Course in Miracles, I don't know if you know about the book, where it was also written by two psychologists who got, and Helen Schuckman got it through something she called inner dictation. So she had this source within her that was dictating the book, because it was not in alignment with what she was actually feeling or thinking about her life or life in general. It was much more positive. So it was, and so it's a very beautiful thing. And it also speaks of how we need to intentionally gladden ourselves, for instance, is one of the things A Course in Miracles propagates, or choose happiness and joy. And it says the thing we all can agree on is that we want to be perfectly happy. Otherwise, there's not much else we can all agree on, but that's something that one can agree on.
Right. We want to be happy. We don't want to suffer, right? We want to be able to live and enjoy this beautiful planet we live on. So, okay, so let's learn how to do some intentional things to be more happy. So my favorite one is awe. So we don't think of awe being a positive emotion, but it is. Awe is the experience we have when we get goosebumps, when we hear beautiful music, or we see a landscape and we gasp because it's so beautiful. That is my favorite, and I intentionally plug this in every day. I take the longer way to work. It's 10 minutes longer, but I go through a forest instead of the freeway. And I roll down my windows. I'm in the Seattle area, so I roll down my windows, rain or shine, so I can be a part of, because I love it. Forest for me is my happy place. So I plug awe in as much as possible. So any awe you can get, things that inspire you, inspire your creativity. Another one that's easy is pro-social behavior. Excuse me. Several years ago, I think it's been several years now, maybe it's been 10, people were buying the car behind them in Starbucks a coffee. Wow, that's super nice. Well, that's pro-social behavior. They did it to be nice, but they did it also to generate happiness. You can do this by opening the door for someone. My favorite is smiling at people in public that are frowning. I will make eye contact and smile. Just make eye contact and smile. You will be amazed. They will smile back. I hope I uplifted their morning. So pro-social behavior, do something for somebody else. That's another great one. One that gets a ton of recognition in research is what we call grit. And grit is working toward a long-term goal and reaching it. And so it's the act of working toward that long-term goal generates positive emotions within us. You feel resilient. You feel accomplished. I can just name all the things I felt when I was, getting going through my schooling. That grit it took to, even though I was frustrated and I don't think I can do it, I would pull myself up and kept moving forward. And so that generated this positive feeling, within me. So those are three just little more complex areas to get happiness. Some really basic ways, which I learned in my research. So my research was with adults with intellectual disability. And I wanted to know what made them happy. And what I found was actually pretty profound, because what they told me, we all need to hear it. Being with their family, being out in community, getting to do your everyday chores. Yeah, imagine not having the physical capacity to do a chore. Yeah, we now can appreciate, I get to do the dishes. Thank you for allowing me this gift to be able to do an everyday chore. So what they told me was really, to me, we need to maybe not do the big things. Maybe we don't need the grit, the awe. Maybe we just need to appreciate just what we have in front of us and, stop seeking something that's not already there. So there's a little, oops, sorry, I bumped my table, a little bit about my research, but yeah, happiness can be attained. All of us can have it. We just got to go get it.
Yeah, that's really well put. Also, the recognition that one can do something. It's
Yes.
true that when you get sick or something keeps you from being able to do things, you start realizing, I prefer to be able to do it, even if the rest of life may be appearing to be grim and hard. But I prefer to be able to do it than to be sick, right? And not be able to do any of it. It's interesting, right? Because you would maybe think you don't want to go back into the difficulties of being healthy and being able to deal with life. But when you're sick and not feeling good, it's actually something to look forward to.
Very much so. So during my internship, I worked with cancer patients. And again, I learned a lot about happiness when some of this, it was just the easiest, simple things. I got to have a small bit of dinner last night, and I was able to taste it, right? We take that for granted. I ate a huge meal last night, and yet there was a lot of appreciation. a lot of appreciation for the small things. And I want to remind people, we don't need a huge, crisis in our life to happen. We just need to slow down a little bit and start realizing that we can actually take the happiness now. And maybe like a vitamin. Let's not take it when we need it, when we're in crisis, but take it now. So when we are in crisis, we're more resilient to be able to bounce back faster.
I think it's really nice that you researched it as well and that you chose to go deeper with it. I mean, not that means everyone has the same things that makes them happy, but it certainly shows that in certain situations, I remember when I was studying anthropology, we went into studies about people who were going through a lot of pain. We're reading those, and like how they at some point stop complaining about the pain all the time and stuff like that, and change their attitude, even though they're in constant pain. And so all these things, it's really interesting how one develops a way to be able to continue living.
For sure. It's all, there's a lot to do with our outlook. If we have a really positive outlook and we actually want those positive things, we're going to then manifest them into our life. But when we get stuck in cycles, then that's all we pull toward us. And so it's really important for us, especially when we're going through major things, to keep on the positive side. And the good, excuse me, I'm getting over a little bit of a cold, so I apologize. One of the things that I really am enjoying seeing in psychology, especially in the world that I live in, is there was so much emphasis on pathology, and everybody who walks through the door, you're sick, and let's try to heal you. And there's so much more in terms of the positive psychology, where all of us could use healing. We could all use things in our life that are bringing us the joy and the happiness and the things that we want, instead of always pathologizing. And that's one of the reasons I went into humanistic psychology, was because of humanistic psychology looks to bring you to your self-actualized self, your best life, where a lot of the other, modalities in psychology are just trying to fix you. I come at it as, you are not broken. We just want to change some things to get you to the life you want to live. So just some different viewpoint changes and mindsets, which I'm thinking that people out there want more of. They want, I'm not broken, help me be happy, right? But we're seeing a slow shift that way.
In A Course in Miracles, there's this two ways that people see each other and themselves, right? One is the special relationship, where you make someone special, you make yourself special, and you think you have to, so you're actually cut off. And then there's the holy relationship, where you see each other as whole, and not as having to take something from someone else in order to be whole, or this and that, right? So you're actually supporting each other in recognizing wholeness. And I think that is a very significant change if you are able to change your mind about things in that way. Because it doesn't change anything that's happening, it changes how you see it, and that changes everything for your experience.
Very much so. And I don't know if this is just this competitiveness we've gotten with each other, where everybody they're in it for whatever their own gain. And we need to really pull back, and we're all part of the same fabric. We're all here together. We need to join together and recognize our samenesses rather than our differences, and lean into bringing ourselves to a place where we can all enjoy the world together. And yet, who knows why we always go into that negative side, but we need to, once we recognize that we're moving into those negative mindsets, pulling it back in, and that, we need to be together and see each other for for the whole person that they are, the wholeness of them. But we're only picking parts out. We're just picking the little parts out, either the parts we like or the parts we don't like. But we love the totality of, right? And so important to see that.
And one of the other points is you can't change the world, but you can change the way you see it, the way you think about it.
Yes. Yeah. So much, very much how we view, if we look at it with the positive, and also how we present to the world. I think we always need to check ourselves too. I'm not perfect. There's going to be times when I present with maybe a negative presentation, but I need to check myself and constantly self-reflect and bring myself back to, is a negative society the society I want to live in? No. So I need to then project that positivity. And, there's kickback on positivity. And I hate to say this, I hate to even admit this. And whoever did this to me, if you ever hear this, I'm so sorry. But she scolded me for being happy. And I'm really hard. Be happy. But she scolded me. Why are you so happy? Why did it uncomfortable? Like I would never what it said. Make you comfortable. I just sorry. That sensitive, 100% I still love this in negative. I think the least smell has come. My taste there. Strength and positive. Sorry, strength.
That's something that's very significant in A Course in Miracles. There's also the thing in our safety lies in not protecting ourselves. So it's like, so that's where the strength lies. So you're not not defending yourself. Now the funny thing is, most of us have been taught if you don't defend yourself, you're weak. But it doesn't mean that you're a pushover. It means something totally different. It means that you're not in a defensive state of mind, right? In the way you encounter things. So you're no longer in this always expecting to be attacked or needing to attack in order to succeed, but you're basically open for all the opportunities you have to succeed rather than for all the opportunities you have to be let down or fall short or whatever else. And I think that's very significant.
Yeah, if you stay open while you're on your path, no matter what comes across it can be seen as an opportunity. It's all in how you take it. And I think that's really important as we kind of walk our journey, because sometimes negative things get thrown at us and we go into old learned behaviors or old learned mindsets that might not have served us or may have served us in the past, but aren't serving us now. But if we are open and stay present and just really stay as non-attached in the moment, whatever comes across the path, whether positive or negative, can be used for good, right? We can use that. And I think that's the joy of living in a positive mindset, of living in joy, right? We're appreciative. Like my cancer patients, by the end, they were like, cancer stinks. It's not a good thing, but I'm so glad I had it because I'm more connected with my family. Wow. Okay. Right. So you can walk through a terrible cancer treatment journey and come out the other side going, I'm so glad that happened to me because I'm closer with my family now. I now look at the blue sky and go, oh, blue sky. Before I was just thinking about my job. So everything can have a beautiful silver lining. We just have to open our eyes and look for it. It's there.
It's so amazing if we learn to be defenseless, how much more powerful we are. But I'm learning, and I still continue to get caught up in defending, in seeing myself as weak or this and that. And it's really a challenge to decide to stop defending, right? And to listen to the voice that in A Course in Miracles is called the Holy Spirit, that is sane, right? The sane voice, because the ego has the opposite voice that we made up. In A Course in Miracles, it says we made up the ego to it's a thought system of separation that is a closed thought system. So like you said, you only see one focus and you don't see anything else. If you're listening to the thought system of separation, you're not going to see much, right?
Yeah.
It's actually, and
you're
it's only
at it from the street view.
And the only thing it guides to is destruction, even though it can't destroy anything, because it's not real, according to the way A Course in Miracles puts it. So in reality, nothing is able to be destroyed. But in this viewpoint, you think you can, or you think someone else can, or something else can destroy something. But in defenselessness, when you're listening to the Holy Spirit, you know that you're untouchable, right? You're safe.
Yeah. When you're living in ego, I liken it to, being on the street level. You only see everything that you can't see above it. You can only see what's in front of you. And it becomes a video game, a Frogger, just trying to avoid, trying to miss this, that, and the other, protect myself, make sure no one touches me, make sure I don't touch anybody else. But when we start living, kind of within ourselves and within our higher self and our truer self, we go up a level, maybe 2 levels, and we're now looking down at the street, and we have a lot more compassion, because now we're seeing, there's Johnny, he's playing Frogger that way, and there's Bethany, and she's popping that way, and I hope they make it. We're seeing things from a different view. But when we're down on the street level, sometimes we're so protective. And I'm always encouraging people, when you do happiness, practices, and we start to kind of feel better, we start to go up a couple levels of the sky, the skyscraper, and we get to look down a little bit, and we're not so stuck in the muck. And it's not so much of a me versus you, a defensive maneuver, an offensive maneuver. It's more like I can see how everything works. So now when I go back down to the street level, I can now maneuver with more intentionality and more success, because I see where I want to go. And now I can walk there. And maybe instead of avoiding people, I'm saying hi to people as I walk by them, because I've seen them from above. Not living in defense, always being defensive, and always having your hands up, and not allowing the world, not living through the world, but kind of reacting to the world. Not a great way to live, not a very way to live in happiness and joy anyway.
Fun thing also from A Course in Miracles, the world is seen as an illusion, right? So it's something we made up that isn't actually there, the world we experience. And if you think about it and you change your mind about it, and suddenly everything is different for you, then it can't be real, right? So the way you're seeing it isn't real if it's making you unhappy. So it's not correct. So according to A Course in Miracles, when you're happy, you're actually seeing things correctly, not when you're unhappy. So it's just so if you're unhappy, you're thinking something that isn't right. You have a thought, you're following an idea that isn't correct. And that's pretty challenging to accept, because it means you're responsible to change your mind about things. And you need to accept that responsibility and listen to Holy Spirit, right? And it's a different voice. It says something totally different than the ego, of course, right? The ego says, you'll be happy if you achieve this and that. And the Holy Spirit might be saying, look how beautiful the day is today. And what you look, you're capable of doing whatever comes up. You're capable of facing it all and doing it all. And if you need help, you just get help. It's not a shameful thing to do. You just get the help you need, and so on and so forth, right? It will always be on your side, in the sense that the ego will say that it's on your side, of course, right? Because it's always doing everything for you. I'm doing it all for you. You should be thankful, right? The Holy Spirit doesn't ask you to be thankful. It's just happy to help, right? It's you. It's very different. Yeah.
Our ego is so, we're so attachment based, and we place all this permanence on all this stuff around us. And that's a recipe for unhappiness, because inevitably something is going to fail. Something's going to be broken. Something is not going to go right. And the first thing we do is internalize that. Well, then I broke it. I did this. I did that. You did this to me. Blah, 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 all this stuff, right? And if we don't just sit back into, the deeper parts of ourselves that our ego can't touch, that's the unwavering spirit of ourselves. The part of us that doesn't go anywhere, that's part of the bigger system. Then we realize that we wouldn't get attached to any of this stuff. We would just be grateful we had it for the moment. And then that goes into that positive emotion of gratitude, right? I get this for today. If it breaks, then it breaks. Or if it's not there, it's not there. But it makes us appreciate more what we have. Especially with like our family and friends. We take our people in our life so for granted. And they're not going to always be there. And so I see people all the time that are like, oh, my grandmother died. I'm grieving and it hurts so bad. And like, well, did you enjoy her while she was here? No, I never went to see her. No, we need to, right? We need to just, no attachment. Not everything's going to be here forever. Enjoy everything while it's here with gratitude and joy. And then when it's not here anymore, don't be sad. Just be like, oh, I'm so glad I had the opportunity when I had with it. I hope I get that again.
Yeah. So you said you would like to go deeper into your research about happiness and joy and so on. And let's go a little deeper. What other discoveries did you make, and what were the lessons you took from your life? I mean, you gave us some of them, and maybe you'd like to go deeper into the way you use that when you encounter something that may have previously been thought to be unsurmountable, and suddenly you're able to move forward, and there's nothing in the way now that was that where you thought there was something before.
Yeah. One of the biggest, I think, aha moments for me when I was doing the research is I've always been a positive person. I always have leaned that way. Like I shared before, that one person said, why are you always so positive? Just, it is really very much my nature. But it wasn't until I actually started doing the research into positive emotions when I realized how I clung to the negative emotions. For some reason, they're a little bit addicting, and I didn't realize how hard it would be for me and my clients too, to let go. People that have anger really like that anger. It's empowering, it's protective, it's this, that, and the other. There's all these things. And yes, there are times when anger is the emotion you should have in the situation, and it works. The problem with us is we have emotions that are very disconnected. For example, fear. Unless there is a tiger chasing you, having fear in the supermarket's a disconnected, emotion. And yet we're so used to it. This is how we've learned. And so for me, the biggest aha moment was how much I clung to it, and that resistance to, I don't know if I want to give up the negative emotions. I'm happy to try this stuff out, this positive emotion stuff, but I don't know if I'm ready yet to relinquish the negative emotions. And then for me, as I did the research and then being more intentional, I learned the tools. But then it was really after my research that I kind of developed what it meant, that I have the tools and I'm going to be generating more positive emotions, but I need to change my relationship with my negative emotions. And for me, it was, I was no longer going to tolerate dysregulated nervous system that didn't make sense, where I was having a fight, flight, freeze response when somebody knocked on the door. So then my practice really became not pushing the negative emotions away, but learning how to control them so they don't escalate, that they make sense in the situation, that I have a better relationship with my negative emotions. I'm not getting rid of them. I'm going to need some of them. But that allowed me to then really lean into my relationship with my positive emotions. I want them to be balanced. I want both, but I want my positive emotions to be really guiding me. And I want my negative emotions to be protecting me. So it's two different kind of things with my relationship with emotions. But that was the biggest thing for me, was I didn't realize that I was clinging to those negative emotions like they were my life raft from a sinking ship. They were not helping me, and they were not protecting me. I was using them, I think, to gain power or whatever. Who knows? Who knows why we use our anger and who knows why we use all that? But it's not for the good of man.
And of course, in Miracles, it speaks of guilt as the main thing where we get stuck. And I always like to put it, guilt is the only drug that exists, and it's the one we're all addicted to. We need to let go of that. And it's really, for me, it's a challenge too. I'm a work in progress as well. And so guilt is a really big one. And because everything where you feel guilty gets in the way of actually doing what's in front of you, right? So it's like always in the way. And so it's incredible how addicted we are to guilt. And so if someone says, "Oh, I'm not drinking, I'm not doing this, I'm not taking drugs," and so on, I'm not an addict. It's not true, right? As long as we're addicted to guilt, we're in one way or another addicts, no matter what we're doing to that shows that or doesn't show it, right?
Yeah. Guilt is really insidious. It sneaks in there, and it can really be a detrimental emotion. And I always like to remind people that guilt is often a secondary emotion to something else. And if you want to get rid of the guilt, you got to figure out what emotion that it's hiding. And oftentimes it's fear. What are you afraid of? Or, maybe it's, abandonment or fear of rejection or whatever. But yeah, guilt sneaks in there, but we do get very addicted to it. It's heavy. Guilt's a heavy feeling. A lot of chemicals, a lot of cortisol, a lot of stuff gets dumped in our, brain that we really, there's a cortisol addiction that we can get where we're just like, we really like that feeling of that constant stress and that dysregulation. Guilt's a tough one. And I've lived my way this way for a long time. And it didn't really make sense to me until a few years ago, but I always try to live my life with no regrets. I do things, honestly and with no bad, ill intention. I can make mistakes happen, but I really try to live with no regrets. I try to, have that life. But I think what happens with guilt is that regret starts to pop in, that I doubt myself now. And again, guilt, that's secondary emotion. Is it coming from doubt? Did you doubt yourself? We got to heal the doubt that you had. But for me, the guilt just, I'm not really sure where I was going with this, but where I'm ending, I hope makes sense. The guilt for me, it was something that there was no benefit to it. No matter how much I worked through the guilt, I wasn't coming out solving a problem on the other side. And so I had to tell myself, okay, well, I'm grateful that I have the opportunity to feel guilt, but I'm going to have to set that guilt aside and really figure out what is the problem and how can I solve what I can solve. So then I can have no regrets in this situation, and I've done everything I can to move forward. But guilt often is this mountain, this rock we hide behind, and we do nothing. We do nothing. We just sit there. I'm guilty. I feel so much guilt. Well, you're not bettering the situation. You're not fixing anything. You're actually being kind of selfish, sitting there being guilty. So don't feel guilt. Set it aside. What is the guilt hiding? And then go fix the thing. So then you're moving forward and being a problem solver.
Basically, the idea, I think, is not to see there being a problem, but seeing all as solved. And so it's also very, like when I said the idea of seeing each other as whole rather than as broken or whatever else, or as someone I need something from, or whatever else the other ideas are that has stolen something from me, or has something that I need to get from them so that I can get that and that, or and I have something that I need to give that they want to have, so they're gonna be trying to steal stuff from me, and we're gonna barter about it. When you see each other as whole, there's no need to barter, right? So
everybody has what they need.
Yeah, so you stop all that pull and tearing and pushing and shoving and whatever other ways you do it. You start letting go of that and start seeing another way. And I think that's what it's all about. So rather than choosing to wallow in the guilt, one needs to choose to have the idea that there is another way, and let that pop into your mind what that could be.
There's another way.
Actually, the way A Course in Miracles came about, they were the two people who co-scribed it. They were in a faculty of psychologists that was having a lot of controversy with each other, and the boss, who was also part of this writing process, was like, "There must be another way." And Helen Schucklin was like, "Yes, I'll help you find it." And then this whole input came into her, and things changed, and she started having visions and all these things, and it really changed everything. So that A Course in Miracles was the answer. This is the other way. The other way looks like this. These are the ways you could think about it, right? And actually, the whole book is summed in one or two sentences. Nothing unreal exists, for instance, is one of those. So it's so nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists, and therein lies the peace of God. So yeah, if you can choose that you're safe, then yes, the other stuff drops away and starts looking totally different. So yeah, it's a choice, but it's not a choice that you immediately know how to make or choose to make. So you need to at least start by allowing the idea that it's possible that there is another way. Perhaps there is another way. I want to go another way. I don't want to be unhappy anymore, right? And that's the first step.
Yeah, the first step is realizing that every step you take on your healing path is a choice. You have full choice, that nothing is ever like done to us, and that we can actually, we can choose to dwell in the guilt. We can choose to set it aside. We can always choose. We can choose to stay miserable, or we can choose to do something about it. That's always our choice. And moving forward is always a good choice.
Yeah, and that's a change of mind, right? So we're changing our mind about our life, and in other words, about the world. Yeah. And even if you can accept that there might be another way, okay, there must be another way, because unhappiness is certainly not what I want. There must be another way. And then another thing that they added to that was please help. And so it was asking for whatever source there was within or wherever it came from to help, right? Because there is something that knows there is another way and knows what that other way is and can answer that question. So we need to be willing to hear that answer. And that's of course when you're in the midst of the feeling guilty and miserable, that's a revelation to say oh, I want another way. I want it to be different. I want something else. Yeah.
Yeah. Step one is wanting there to be a different way. Step two is being able to quiet yourself enough to hear what's coming from inside you of the other way. And then step three is actually taking action and doing the things to do it. But we rarely quiet ourselves down. You know, we have our ruminations, our brains are going all these different miles an hour. And sometimes we just need to sit in stillness and then just wait for the answer to happen and just, let the ego dissolve away. We don't need it. What else is going to come through? But we don't. We just live in the chaos because the chaos is addicting.
You said it's allowing the things to come up without judging it right away, throwing it out, because the habit is to throw out any idea and say it's impossible. That's not realistic. That's not this. How do we know what is realistic? We don't even know what is realistic because we're so caught up in these ideas of unhappiness, of guilt, of fear, or whatever you want to call it. It's all so unrealistic in itself that we don't even know what is realistic until we start allowing some of that realism to come through, which is sane and happy and not propagating separation and the feeling of being out of touch and not capable of living a worthwhile way or thinking in a worthwhile way.
Yeah. A lot of people don't think that happiness is realistic for them. They think they have so much mental illness or trauma, or the hill is just too big for them to climb. And what I always like to tell people is the hill is not, there's no hill. It's actually a downhill slide on a sled to get to happiness. You don't have to work hard to do it. You just have to be able to let go. Let go of your preconceived notions. Let go of who you think you are. Let go of what you think you deserve, because you actually deserve happiness. I don't know why a lot of us self-punish, or we don't think we get to. No, we get to be happy. That's the first and only thing really we get to in this life. We get to enjoy this experience. Now, here's the catch. Are you going to allow yourself to? And if you are, it's a change of mindset. It's seeking happiness and saying, I deserve to be happy. But are you going to lean into the mindset of, I don't deserve to be happy? That's where we are. But just being a person in this world, you get to. It's going to be a choice. And I know this because there's people that are serving life in prison who have found happiness. They'll never get out, but they have done practices in prison and then found happiness. So how's that, right? So again, no matter what situation, you can always find happiness, but you got to be willing to do it.
Of course, in Miracles, it says, all you need is a little willingness.
There you go. It's really what it takes.
Yeah.
If you're willing, you can do this, but you got to be willing.
Because the rest of the willingness that you need comes with that little willingness. Because it also says there's no partial love. It's total love or not love at all, right? Yeah. So it's either fear or happiness, but you can't have both at the same time. Right. Which is Or another way of putting it in A Course in Miracles is when you say, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And so thinking about that. Yeah, we're always wrong when we're unhappy. So
Right.
it's yeah. So do I want to be right or do I want to be happy? And wanting to be right is always the best way to be unhappy. It's the direct route to being unhappy.
Goes back to that having to be attached to something, right? I got to be attached to being the one in the room who has it correct. There's a lot of, I don't know, space to not have that pressure, to not have to be the one who's right, to just be like, oh, that's an interesting point of view. All right, cool. And then just smile and just accept it. We're all going to have different points of view. And I would choose happiness over being right every day. Yeah.
I really want to get there and choose happiness instead of being right. But I get so caught up in it every single day, wanting to be right. And
Well,
it's
it's a
so
practice.
annoying.
It's
so annoying because it gets you unhappy every single time. It's so predictable.
It's just one of those things you have to do with no judgment. When you notice yourself going off track, you just have to pull yourself back on. We are it's a fast-paced world we live in, and we're going to ping pong around this happiness, road. It's when we catch ourselves falling off, how do we kindly pull ourselves back on? And then, reminding us, no, I can live a happy life. I just need to be intentional. Happiness is not going to just happen to you. And if you're sitting there thinking, I'm not very happy, it's not coming my way, happiness comes to you sometimes, but go get it. Go get it. Make yourself happy.
So we're coming to the point where we'll wrap things up. So I'd like to ask you, is there anything I didn't ask you that you would like to share?
I think we really talked a lot about everything that I talk about with happiness. The main thing I always like to tell people is that if you don't think you can do these things, you're wrong. You can smile at people in public. You can set a goal and work towards it. You can do things that make you feel happy. You can be with family. You can live in gratitude. And if you really think you can't really do this, just start with a gratitude journal. Write one thing you're grateful for every night. Start there. And in 2 weeks, ask yourself, does that make me feel better? And if it does, keep doing it. Just start small, keep doing it. We can all be happy.
Yeah, that's very, very important. It's also one other way is to simply say yes to what's going on in your mind and accept it and then choose again.
Yeah.
Right? If it doesn't feel good, then choose again. But like you said, don't feel guilty about it. Choose again. As the Course in Miracles says, choose again. So anyways.
I like that. I like that.
So it's very, very funny to think you can choose again no matter what happens, because you don't have to stay stuck because you think you're not allowed to choose again. You can.
Yeah. You don't have to stay stuck.
Yeah. Okay, so I'd like to thank you very much for coming here and joining me in this conversation and sharing your research and what you found out and all the tools that you shared. And I'd love to hear from everyone how you've been using these tools, what it's done for you, and please reach out to me if you want to be a guest on the podcast, if you have something to share, and review the podcast and let people know about it so that more people can enjoy the conversations that are on the podcast, because there's a lot of them. So it's over 6 years of material. So enjoy, and till next time.